Good afternoon or good morning, shall I say, to all of our invitees for this introduction to specialty gas switchovers from the Matheson Specialty Gas Equipment team. I thank you for your time. My name is Paolo De Lazzari. Also, I'm be joined by my colleague David Henney and Bill Staples, who is our engineering manager. We will have some questions and answers that you can send it by the chat box during the presentation. We'll answer them at the end, as well as some of the questions that were sent ahead of time to our info@mathesongas.com. Today's discussion is going to be about switchover systems. Just to start, I want to try to bring a recollection of a situation that a few years ago I was visiting a research lab at the university in the US. And one of the graduates mentioned to me how much he really didn't want to leave his lab for fear that he would run out of gas. And he actually wanted to go visit his family for the holidays. And he didn't know if there was a solution. I indicated, yes, there is. It's called a switchover system. You have the cylinders, you may have one or more, and you have an uninterrupted supply of gas. And he liked the idea. He bought one. He solved his problems. He went to his holidays. And he continued to buy additional switchovers for doers and other things, which we'll talk in our presentation. The picture right here shows a basic two-cylinder switchover for a specialty gas. In this case, it's carbon dioxide, mounted on a freestanding rack mounted and an alarm horn annunciator panel. What we learned today are the features and benefits of a switchover system. When do I use a switchover? And a broader switchover system options that can help for different applications, and the available resources that we have to offer related to switchovers. Our products are made in USA. We're proud of that, made in Montgomeryville, Pennsylvania. The questions you may have as we move forward is, what is a switchover? How does it work? When should I get one? And where should I use it? Which options, as mentioned before, should I add it? Again, here it is, as discussed before, the two-cylinder switchover, rack-mounted, two flex hoses, and the horn annunciator. What is a switchover? A switchover is a manifold panel made up with regulators and other items that operates as an automatic switchover. As you can see the picture here, it shows a two-cylinder switchover in stainless steel. It is a system that provides a continuous, uninterrupted supply of gas. I like to stress that is uninterrupted supply of gas. It's the best insurance that you don't run out of gas. It's based on pressure differential technology. It's ideal for high or low purity gas delivery, available in brass or stainless steel materials. It provides an automatic switchover control and gas delivered from 2, which shows right here on the picture of the panel on the right, up to 12 cylinders. As well as this can be used for doers or 6 or 12 packs. How does it work, a switchover? Well, the panel right here, you see the arrow is pointing to the right, becoming the primary side. It is set at specific delivery pressure, either 175 or 225 psig. The left bank on the other side is fixed at our normal 200 psig setting. When the right side delivery gas into the cylinder bank drops below 200 psig, at which point the left side automatically takes over since it's waiting to deliver gas at 200 psig. When the right side cylinder is virtually empty, now the left side is now delivering gas. The operator then takes this knob, simply rotates the knob counterclockwise so that the arrow points to the left cylinder, becoming that side the primary. The operator then changes the right side cylinder. And note that during the cylinder change out, the left side is continuing delivering the gas to the point of use, again, uninterrupted. When should you use a switchover? Again, as we stress, when you need a continuous, uninterrupted supply of gas, whether from cylinders, doers, or packs. It is your best insurance policy not to run out of gas during the process. It controls the gas delivery from cylinders within a centralized distribution system. As you get in at the end, receiving, providing a safer and efficient delivery gas assistance to the point of use. Also, when one needs to monitor the remote or local size of emptying of cylinders to get some notification. Where are switchovers typically used? Again, applications that may benefit from uninterrupted supply of gas. Research analytical labs, feed furnaces, additive metal 3D printing equipment, and other applications that require that uninterrupted supply of gas throughout the process. Let's look at the switchover system. The basic specifications, the panel dimension as shown right here is 12 by 14. The materials, as mentioned before, are available in brass or stainless steel. You need to know the gas type to be used, so you have the CGA connections at each cylinder. The standard system has a maximum flow of 3 standard cubic feet per minute of nitrogen. The configuration, again, as mentioned before, set up a 200 psi G plus or minus 25 psi switchover pressure. The delivery pressure outlet that comes out on this side is this options of 0 to 30, 0 to 100, 0 to 150. The underlying 0 to 100 is the most common one that is used for many applications. Each connection to has a 3-foot flex hoses that are connected to the cylinders as needed. The outlet connection, as shown here, is a 1/4-inch compression, and here on this side there is an interstate relief valve. Just to briefly show you, we do provide transmittals and drawings with each order that we do take, which gives you all the configurations, the dimensions, and so on to what has been shipped. Additional options that are available, instead of having 3-foot flex hoses, we can have a 6-foot flex hose or even longer. Typically, 6 foot is sufficient for doers or 6 or 12 packs when they're connected. An NFPA label, very important to have for ready identification of the gas service. Typically, is being placed here in one of the panels. High pressure vent valves, as shown in the panel left and right, which enables the user to maintain optimum purity after cylinder changes. Basically, what it does, it prevents moisture to get in when you change the cylinders. Low pressure isolation valve can be added at the outlet when you want to add for temporary system isolation of the complete system. Also, options are an indicated pressure switch that shows right here connected the wires that they replace the regular gauges, tied in with a pressure monitor PM24, which shows right here, or can be mounted elsewhere within the building or system. The IPS, the pressure model, and the PM24 can tell the user when the cylinders are low. Basically, there's an alarm and it's an annunciator that has alarm for each side, and an acknowledge button and a relay that can be sent to a remote local management system in the building. Additional options that can be the gauges to be Bluetooth gauges, as shows right here, for remote monitoring that requires a router and receiver. This allows it for notification to 5 different locations, text message, email, your iPhone, and so on, or even to the email of the store that is gas for immediate notification that one side is already empty. The standard outlet fitting, as mentioned before, is a 1/4-inch outlet fitting. Other outlet fittings available to you dealing with a high flow system, which we'll talk further, is a 1/2 inch for a system higher than 3 standard cubic feet per minute of nitrogen. The manifold piping with station valves, we normally, what we've shown so far is up 1 by 1, but we can provide up to 12 cylinders, 6 by 6. So it can be a 5 by 5, 4 by 4, 3 by 3, 2 by 2, and 1 by 1, which we're showing on our examples. This can also be tied into 6 or 12 packs or to doers. You can also add for the system an emergency shutoff valve and ESO. Usually this ties in for safety for flammable and corrosive gases, paired with a gas detection sensor and a controller. And sometimes it can be added the whole system in a gas cabinet, which we'll discuss as far as some of the options that we have available. A cross purge for corrosive, toxic, or flammable gases when you want to do purging. So the cross purge can be added to the panel and to the system. Additional system, as I mentioned, when you go to a high flow switchover system above 3 standard cubic feet per minute, which is our standard, we call it the HA series, maximum flow up to 15 SCFM series of nitrogen. Basically, it's the same system as you see the picture, the same configuration, except that they're kind of different regulators and materials for high flow performance. The LPX series, which is for low pressure gas supply below 400 psig. When you do have liquefied gases, low vapor pressures that, for example, like propane, it would require a different type of a switchover system, which we call the LPX. Same type of system, except there are different equipment and regulators that operates for this low vapor pressure type of gases. You can also tie the switchover system with what we call a TritoPro switchover panel. We add a pure gas purified panel that ties in together and provides the gas to be a 6.9 purity, removing oxygen, moisture, and hydrocarbons. When you have Laser Pro for high flow, you have resonator gas switchover systems. Here you have for helium, nitrogen, carbon dioxide tied in, again, provided uninterrupted supply of flow of the gas that is needed for the application. As mentioned before, you can tie it in a 1x1 panel into a cabinet to meet the flammable and corrosive gases, to meet the fire and safety codes of NFPA 55. You can also add, as mentioned before, an IPS pressure switch and a pressure monitor, PM24. Typically, this is mounted on top of the cabinet that shows notification on one side is empty for alarm notification. You can also add to the panel an emergency shut-off valve to each side. Also a gas detection sensor and transmitter, which is mounted and wired inside the cabinet, and a controller that ties in the ESO, the gas sensor, altogether. The GSM12 controller usually is mounted on top of the cabinet as well. Can also add an excess flow valve, depending on the gas and application, or a cross for purging, if you want to do purging for corrosive and toxic or even flammable gases, all encompassing of gas cabinet that we provided as a complete system. Additional resources that are very helpful. You can go into YouTube and just type Matheson Tech Support. Again, YouTube, you can do it, just put Matheson Tech Support, there's the QR code, and you can have a video, which we're not going to go through this, but they're very helpful to see the full operation, how a switchover system works, how a high flow switchover system works as well, the operation, a low pressure switchover, and a PM24 monitor that is there that will be very helpful, along with many other videos that can be helpful for you. This is done by our engineering group that shows how the operation, how the do's and don'ts, and it's very grateful. So again, go to YouTube, Matheson Tech Support. Another helpful resource is at our store at mathesongas.com, which today we're also adding a QR code that you can take the picture. Just to give you how easy it is our de facto catalog. If you place an order to our store, it typically ships within 24 hours. And as you can see, if you go to store.matheson.com, this is you get welding. If you go to specialty gas equipment, and you have regulators, but we're talking today gas delivery systems, which are switchovers. You open that, and then let's take one, stainless steel. And you can see exactly what it looks like as described throughout our presentation today. So you have a switchover system for 2 cylinders. If you know the gas, say it's an inert, you go CGA 580. The typical delivery pressure for the lines regulator is 0 to 100. And you have a 3-foot flex hose as a standard. And you get basically the part number and the price and the picture, the cut sheet. And if you want to take a look and add other options, see if it's worth it as far as what it looks like. And if you want to have the high pressure vent valves and see the price difference, here's what it shows, and the price is there as a complete system. Or if you want to also add a pressure monitor system and an annunciator, it shows right here all connected. It just shows different part number and the options. I'm not going to go through that, but feel free to access at store.matheson.com. Has all the data sheets, all the videos as discussed today. In summary, what have we learned today? What is the switchover system? Briefly, it's an automatic switchover manifold system for gases and cylinders that are used for packs or even doers. When do I use a switchover system? When you need a continuous, underlying, uninterrupted supply of gas for the process and application that you may need. Where do you use it? Research analytical labs love it because of that continuous, uninterrupted supply of gas. How does it work? Based on pressure differential technology, as described before, how it's set in one and the other one, and which options to add. It varies the many requirements, gases and needs. It could be with a gas cabinet, it could be with a panel, it could be with everything as discussed. We thank you for your time and appreciate your attention and participation on today's. I will turn into some of our panel and have some of the questions that have been sent before. And feel free to also text and I'll be glad to answer with our Bill Staples, our engineering manager, will be getting to some of the questions and the answers that can be helpful for the individual that sent or to everybody else that is listening and want to learn more about switchovers. Okay, Bill, are you there? Can I?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Paulo.
Yes, Bill. Here's a question I got from Jay. He's saying here, using a high purity hydrogen gas, I want to purge the line on the tank that I just replaced before reintroducing it to the process. I do this because I do not want any air, oxygen, or nitrogen to get into the process. Do I have an option for that? Can I run a tube to the vent that purge outside? Also, do you recommend something to reduce the noise of the purge? I have seen a back pressure regulator using that, but not sure if that is the best. Appreciate the inputs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, for the question. You would want to use the high pressure vent valve option for purging with a process gas. The vent valve has a 1/4-inch female pipe connection, which makes it easy to pipe to a vent line. The vent valve is a full turn diaphragm valve, and you could open it just a slight amount to control the venting. Some customers add an orifice to the vent valve, which will slow down the venting process. A back pressure regulator will restrict the flow and leave a back pressure on the system, but it seems to be an expensive way to restrict the flow. Okay.
Thank you. The next question is from Bob. Can I use a switchover for doers and which ones?
Thank you, Bob. Yes, you can use doers with our switchover system. 350 PSI doers can be used with our standard 200 PSI switchover. We can customize a switchover setting for 230 PSI doers. You should consider 6-foot long flex hoses instead of the standard 3-foot long hoses, as doers are hard to move around.
Thank you. The next one is from John. When should I add a high pressure vent feature to the system?
Thanks, John. The high pressure vent valve feature enables the user to maintain optimum purity after cylinder changes. You can use the process gas to purge out atmospheric contamination. We can also offer a cross purge option for applications that call for a nitrogen purge.
The next one here from Steve. Can the switchover pressure monitor integrate with a facility management system? The PM24, I think is talking. Thank you.
Yes, Steve. The PM24 has 2 sets of output contacts, right side and left side, that can be used to integrate with a facility management system. The right and left output contacts can also be wired together for a common output. We have a YouTube video that shows the operation and wiring for the output contacts.
Thank you. And the next one is from Lynn. Is it possible to expand the switchover system to add more cylinders at a later date?
Yes, you can. Our source track manifolds and brass mini manifolds come with a CGA outlet bushing, so you can easily attach the hoses from a standard 2-cylinder switchover panel to the manifold.
And from Mike, will the switchover work with different gas mixtures?
Thank you, Mike. Yes, we often sell the switchover for gas mixtures. Keep in mind there might be some co-mingling of the gases during the time when it switches from one side to the other.
Are there any other additional questions that have been sent from the participants right now?
Yes, Paulo and Bill.
Okay.
2 questions from Jay. First one is, when is it appropriate to use brass materials of construction, and when would it be appropriate to use stainless steel materials of construction?
Yeah, Dave, that's a really good question. We offer our switchovers in standard brass or stainless steel. The brass is a brass bar stock, which is high purity as compared to a forged brass setup like you'd use for welding applications. The stainless steel is for higher purity applications, and we've got a regulator selection chart that tells you what purity levels you would use brass or stainless steel. But the stainless steel, most of it's a moisture issue because the brass will hold moisture in its pores better than stainless steel. So if moisture is a consideration, stainless steel is really the way to go.
Thank you. All right, Jay also had another question. For the switchover alarm options, can they be used outside, exposed directly to the weather, such as rain, snow, that sort of thing?
PM24 is not intended to be outdoors. It can be used outdoors.
So, Bill, for the most part, it's ideal to have some sort of awning or cover.
Yeah, if you've got a roof overhead to keep the rain off of it, it should work well.
Okay. And then for our other alarm, the gas watcher system, we have a whole questionnaire that we can provide the user, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Carlos wants an explanation of how you would operate the vent valve.
Well, we sell the vent valves. It's with an isolation, high pressure isolation valve. So we have a high pressure isolation, a high pressure vent valve. So what you do is before you open the vent valve, you probably want to close off your cylinder first, and then close off the isolation valve that goes to the switchover, and then you'd slowly open the high pressure vent valve. I hope that answers his question.
Would you open and close that valve, or is it just a matter of one time of?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to purge it, you'd want to do it multiple times.
And then Stu wants to know if you've bought a system that delivers up to 150 psig.
Yep.
Can you tighten the delivery pressure range with a change of the line regulator in the field?
That's a really good question. Yes, and we put a replacement line regulator on our online store, and our main ranges are 30 psi, 100 psi, 150 psi. And if you buy a replacement line regulator, it comes with the gauge, the outlet fitting, which is typically 1/4 inch compression, and it comes with the Interstate relief valve, and it's mounted on the bracket, so you can just spin it on to the 4-inch nipple that comes out of the switchover, and then you can have a new delivery pressure.
From Daniel, what are the recommended scheduled maintenance tasks, cleaning, lubrication, leak check, and how often, weekly, annual, etc., to maintain the switchover system?
That's a lot. Hopefully I can catch all the things. There's really no scheduled maintenance on here. There's no lubrication of the parts. It's pressure based. There's no like turning valves or anything like that. You do want to leak check your cylinder connection when you're attaching it when you hook it up to a cylinder and make sure it's not leaking. And you want to periodically check for any damage to the hoses.
Okay, here's another question from Kevin. Can you describe step by step how to change from one 6-pack to the other with regard to purging the line? I think we probably should consider the vent purge feature for this answer.
Yes, that might be a little involved to explain the whole switchover process. When you start out, you want to have both banks hooked up to the 6-packs, and then purge them out if that's what your intent. is to purge them out each side, and then you run it, and then when the one side goes empty, you would disconnect the empty side and put on a new 6-pack or 12-pack, and then you can purge that out. You'd close the isolation valve, the switchover regulator, and vent out that section. I hope that answered the question.
There's another question about, it's a little different than the maintenance one, because he asks, is there any routine calibration or maintenance required for the switchover? So maybe focus on the calibration part of that question for John Lee.
Well, it's interesting. The gauges that we use on our switchover are not calibratable. I'm not sure what your application is and what you normally do at your facility when you're using it, but obviously you can check the pressures with your own test gauge if you want to check accuracy of the gauges. The gauges we use are called 323 gauges, and it's plus or minus 3% for the lower and upper quarter of the gauge, and in the middle half of the gauge is plus or minus 2% of that's the full range of the gauge.
Okay, so, but for the most part, they don't need to do anything. The system will work perfectly fine. Yeah,
yep.
For years and years.
Yep.
All right, here is another question from John. He asked about switchover systems for liquid phase nitrogen.
No.
He wants to know.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, is there more to the question?
He wants to know, is there any type of switchover system for liquid phase nitrogen out there? The answer is yes.
Yes. Yes, there is. We don't offer cryogenic switchovers.
Thank you, David. So again, if you have any additional questions, please, again, send it to info@mathesongas.com. Once again, thank you for your time and attention and interest with Matheson Gas Specialty Gas Equipment Switchovers and Regulators. Feel free to reach us at info@mathesongas.com. Thank you and have a good day. Thank you.